My name's Adam Manaka and I'm the Financial Controller for Hi-Tech Oils. With our national capacity, we can now service Australian companies nationwide. Of late, we have now expanded into the New Zealand market. Here at Hi-Tech Oils, we receive premium base oils and premium additive packs. Together, with our highly trained staff, we manufacture over 500 premium quality products. Hi-Tech Oils is Australian made and Australian owned.
On today's show, we return to Queensland Raceway for our continued Round 5 coverage of the Shannons Nationals, featuring the Australian Prototype Series and the Australian Production Car Series. And later we stay in Queensland and head to beautiful Bowen in the Whitsundays for Round 2 of the Hi-Tech Oils Australian Offshore Superboat Championship. This is Speedweek.
Hi everyone, welcome again to Queensland Raceway for Round 5 of the Shannons Nationals. The racing this weekend has been action-packed so far, and it's set to continue with the penultimate round of the Australian Prototype Series, along with Round 4 of the Australian Production Car Series. That title fight is getting interesting as we get closer to the season climax at Wakefield Park. The prototypes are about to hit the track. Before we see them, Tony Shebeki managed to catch up with the new series leader after yesterday's first race, Mark Laucke.
The Prototype Series is another series that's been joining us this year on the Shannons calendar, and Mark Laucke is the championship leader at the moment. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you very much. I've just sneaked in there the results of the last race. Yeah.
So 3 points ahead. This is a really tight championship, probably one of the tightest championships in Australia at the moment.
Well, I'd like to think it is because we're trying to make good, close, competitive racing, and we're trying to ensure that we set up the entire series so that anybody can win.
Momentum's a great thing in motor racing, isn't it? You've got it with you at the moment. A fantastic round at Sydney Motorsport Park a few weeks ago, and you bring that here to Queensland Raceway.
Yes, well, yeah, momentum, I guess, is actually reliability more than anything else. It's not quite like the physical sports of football and team. Yes, we are merely drivers, and when we drive the car, we're holding it in trust for the rest of the people who do all the hard work. But I've got to say that really momentum here is more than anything development of the car and the reliability of the car. I was told once, to finish first you have to finish. And that's always been my problem, is finishing.
So, Prototype's out on track now for their first race of the day, and I guess the headline news immediately is the fact that the car off the second spot on the grid, Jason Macris, hasn't fronted issues in the pit and paddock area, not being able to get the engine fired. Gary O'Brien's jumped right alongside me, so headline, not so good for Macris, is it?
No, the 1.4 litre Kawasaki refused to kick over. And unfortunately, our round 2 dominator, well, not dominator, he just won all 3 races, is not able to start in this event. We had a standing start yesterday, we've got rolling starts today. So it really throws a spanner into the works as far as getting your techniques correct when they're all different in the way they start the cars. So we've got David Barham on his own on the front row in the Chiron.
So Barham will lead, Macris not getting to the grid. Laucke to Sutton. Then it is Drake, Pettit, Terry Piavitis, Petty Hill, Richard Mattia and David Aroggi as we come to the line. We're just about to get underway. Barham will get away nicely, and then Chris Sutton goes with him. Up the inside goes John Paul Drake as Laucke is left napping. Loses 2 spots on the rundown into turn 1, and John Paul Drake squeezes through there like a pimple out of your forehead and just goes bearing down into turn 2.
Yeah, and Sutton is the one who got the advantage, went to second. Piavitis is also dropped a couple of spots. He had dramas yesterday. They had a vibration in the car, pitted early, and then had a drive-through from speeding out of pit lane, but still managed to get back to 7th spot.
Wow, Chris Sutton in the 35 Radical there, holding 2 Wests, charging there with John Paul Drake. It's a fantastic return to form early in this race, and Laucke's going to go with them now, so just caught napping a little bit off the start there, looks down the inside and takes 2 with 1 foul swoop
And
into
almost
the turn 4.
and almost ran wide, but it was interesting. You can see the profile difference between the Wests and the Radical. The Radical stands a lot taller in the air than what the West do, and so on these longer straights it really suits the West. And Laucke again really going heavy on the braking area to try and get ahead of these two. It's got to be a good round for him. He won all 3 races at Sydney Motorsport Park. His major adversary is now out of contention, not only in Jason Macris, but in Phil Hughes, who didn't make the start today. Had to borrow a car yesterday. That failed midway through the race, and unfortunately, he will score no further points, but he can drop his worst 2 races for the year.
Yeah, unfortunately, Phil Hughes is not going to take any further part, as we see Terry Piavitis in the FL1 streaming through there as well, and that's going through on Whiting and Hill, I think, in the 117 is Brett Pettit.
Yeah, Brian Pettit, he's just got past in that Clubman style of car. That's an older ADR, I should say, not the Clubman. There are Clubmans in this race. Got a replay here of this great move by Mark Laucke down the inside of turn 4. Not get 1, but get both and move from 4th to 2nd.
Great vision and commitment there to Mark Laucke to be able to pull that off. He did run slightly wide, but didn't lose a whole lot of lap time out of that run. And John Paul Drake here as well.
Here's a couple of the local Queenslander boys who've joined the series for this round. Car number 2, which is Peter Hill, and of course car number 23, one of the older style cars, the Clubmans, which became Sports 1300. Now they've put a wing on the back of them, and they look the goods, don't they, with the driver sitting right
now an
at
1800.
Yeah, and it's sitting right at the back of the car, and the engine forward of the driver, where in the other cars the engine is behind the driver.
Yeah, right between their shoulder blades, basically, in the case of the Wests and the FLs.
Another one we should talk about, Michael Whiting in the older model West. That car had to have the new front splitter put on it, so they took it off the car Phil Hughes took over, and they've put that on the front of it so it could get out and race this one.
It's a bit of a Frankenstein, isn't it?
Well, fortunately there's 2 of the older model West running, so, and one's out, so why not use the front end off the other? And unfortunately he spun yesterday in turn 5, driver error, and it's what really allowed Macris to get past Laucke for 2nd yesterday.
Mark Laucke now is being absolutely menaced by, his teammate in Jam Motorsport there, John Paul Drake. And he has got the mirrors absolutely full of that multicoloured extravaganza. As we have a look just a tad back down the field here. This is number 117, which is Pettit, and the 33 of Whiting, the one that we've just been talking about. A bit of a Frankenstein car. It's got the orange clip off the front of Cookie's car that Phil Hughes commandeered yesterday. And real shame that Phil hasn't taken to the grid here today. He's had a bit of a torrid old weekend. His Radical didn't make it through Friday after doing some engine damage. The car has expired on him as well. I guess all to the advantage of Michael Whiting, because he's now got a front on his car. Back to the lead here. In fact, not quite the lead. David Barham is now 10.8 seconds out in front of the field at the moment in number 46, which is his Chiron LMP3 2-litre car. So he's got the best part of half a litre advantage over anyone else in the field in the Chiron. But this is the battle, and if you like, this is actually the ones that are left in the title hunt outright, particularly Mark Laucke trying to drag maximum points from this weekend so that he can claw back the advantage that Phil Hughes has.
So we've got Chris Sutton now behind Terry Piavitis, so there's been a move. Now Chris Sutton was 2nd early, he's now dropped down to 5th position, and Piavitis is still locking up that inside right front tyre going into turn 3 on that occasion. He was doing it down at turn 6 fairly regularly. I can't see that whether that yellow must have been just a local yellow that was out, and it may have been for Chris Sutton. He may have had a little bit of an excursion off the road, and that's why Terry Piavitis is in front of him. Of course, Piavitis is in the RFR, the Ralph Furman Racing Formula 1000, or FK, or F1K as it's more commonly known these days. As we watch these two Wests, the WX10s, still fighting it out, and off the road big time, and that's a huge off, but fortunately lots of run off there. He gets it back on.
John Paul Drake, that wouldn't have been fun for the initial spear off there. He's having trouble trying to get it back on the track as well. He may have got some damage, has he?
Yeah, he may have. It bounced across the circuit. That extra shock absorber wouldn't have done him much good in that situation.
When you bottom it out, that's for sure. You're skating across the dirt there. I like the sticker on the underside of that wing there. And we go and have a look at what happened there. John Paul Drake. Oh, it unloaded mid-corner. That was, something went wrong there. He had no further turning. He turned in and then he just unloaded.
I think it might have been the sheer pace of the car might have done that. We were watching these guys down there on Friday. Every time you go through turn 2, both Laucke and John Paul Drake and even Jason Macris, you could see they were getting on the power slightly earlier every time in a bid to try and see how much they can drive out of the corner as early as they can. And a couple of them didn't quite get it right. All of a sudden they're going a bit twitchy and all over the place, and they realise, okay, we've got to the point where we can't accelerate any sooner. We've just got to manage that now. While we've been watching that, we've just seen this a great dice going on there between...
this is for position too.
Yeah, there was the Pettit-Whiting dice, and now we've gone back and we've got Laucke and Piavitis fighting over second. So Terry's come from the clouds.
So Mark Laucke's lost 8 seconds on that last lap there, so not sure what went on there. And the Orlando Phoenix FL1 has got right onto the back of Mark Laucke. And Mark Laucke's an unassuming kind of race driver. He's come late to the sport, and
he's a happy race driver.
He is a very happy race driver. In fact, if you're feeling a little bit down, go and stand next to Mark Laucke,
no
and
matter
you'll
what
get
sort
some
of
energy rub off on him. He really is a positive kind of guy. Runs the Laucke Flour Mills, which we've had a pizza in the last week or so. It's probably come from something that he's grown and processed.
Another change of position between Pettit and Whiting. Whiting goes ahead.
The gap. Laucke goes off wide, almost ends up in Snake Gully. Gathers it all back up. Piavitis couldn't quite take advantage of that drop-off in pace.
It probably caught Piavitis out just as much because
I think Piavitis was following him there.
Yeah. Well, I think Laucke fortunately just got back on the right point on the road that Piavitis had no other place to go.
Piavitis getting a little bit of oversteer coming onto the straight there as well.
I think he's fired up now.
He's keen.
Last lap coming up, and he knows that Laucke is struggling a bit in front of him, but can he get close enough to actually put some more pressure on him? Down through turn 2 now, last time around, and onto the back straight. Not a lot between these two cars down the back straight. If anything, the front car of the two has a little bit better airflow.
Less frontal area though on the 1000. That's the other thing of getting it actually through the air. The other thing is that you see the West has a very, very low slung wide rear wing, whereas the 1000 has the twin plane rear wing. Our race leader coming around onto the straight, and this is another fantastic victory to David Barham, and he's going to do it by about 21.9 seconds. And across the line he goes to take victory in race 2 for the weekend of the Australian Prototype Series. So David Barham taking a sweet victory there.
Down the final corner, Laucke very slow through 4 and 5 on the last occasion, but he held the line and there was nothing Piavitis could do about it. Having another run, adding down the straight, just not close enough, about a car length behind. Quick look at the results. David Barham takes the checkered flag, 21.6 seconds ahead of Mark Laucke. Terry Piavitis, a very close third. Chris Sutton gets back to 4th ahead of Michael Whiting and Brian Pettit, who took their fight all the way to the flag. David Rocci was in 7th. Richard Mattia, 8th. John Paul Drake, a non-finisher, as was Peter Hill.
It's going very well. I've got Errol Gilmore from Gilmore Racing helping me this weekend, and he's really helping me refine the car and my style, and yeah, I'm setting PBs all the time.
So yeah, a race of attrition this weekend for the prototypes, and really looking forward to the next round. Here's how it started. We started with a good field of cars.
We did, and Rocci was the one that made the premature move, and he would get penalised for it. And as you can see, Barham already set up a fairly good gap over his rivals, and there we see Chris Sutton in third spot being chased by Terry Piavitas in the open wheeler style prototype. And here we see Piavitas battling with Sutton for position 3. Not much between them as they go down through turn 1, and here they still continue down to turn 3, and this time Terry Piavitas on the brakes late, locks up the right front wheel, but gets the job done, takes over that position, and that put Terry Piavitas up into position 3 in the race, and within no time he was on the back of the second place Laucke, who we think may have had a bit of a drama somewhere out of our vision. And here Terry looked for a way around the points leader. Just after this lock up from Piavitas, and a little puff of smoke as it comes out of turn 3. The
No further drive.
Ralph Furman Racing Formula 1000 came to a halt on the run to turn 4. That did necessitate
I
a
guess the
safety
hands
car.
up in the air with frustration there for Terry. He was on for a good points haul
Indeed.
in
and
that race.
we
This
said
was
it
under safety car.
as we went back to a restart, and from the restart, Mark Laucke had the advantage over Chris Sutton. Those two pulling out a fair gap. They came down the line, and taking the checkered flag was Mark Laucke ahead of Chris Sutton.
I've got to say that Jason's always, if I'm in front, he's always all over me. Mostly he's in front of me, and I'm just doing my best to catch him. So yeah, I was very disappointed actually when he didn't front up on the grid, and because I'd set my whole psyche to do this race with Jason, and when he wasn't there, I was lost for a little while. But hey, I'm resilient. I recovered.
The Australian Prototype Series will conclude its enthralling season at the next round of the Nationals at Phillip Island in September. But after the break, it's race 2 of the Australian Production Car Series.